I would like to welcome, we have 3 candidates here from the 20th Ward who are going to join us for the forum today. They are Coach Ernest Radcliffe. He is a resident of the 20th Ward for 25 years. He is the head baseball coach at Morgan Park High School. 2014 City Champion Sports Illustrated Caring Coach of the Year. He has cared for, loved, and trained over 25,000 youth in 17 years of service. He has sent over 300 kids to college on academic athletic scholarships. And he is founder of Coaches Leaders in Action. Next, Kevin Bailey is a Democrat, a civil engineer specializing in railroad construction and oversight. He resides in the 20th Ward and is running for alderman representing the neighborhoods Woodlawn, Washington Park, Englewood, Back of the Yards, and New City. Next, Andre Smith. Andre Smith is CEO with Chicago Against Violence. He is assistant to Pastor Corey Brooks at New Beginnings Church. The Democrat says he has been on the front line for over 20 years. Welcome, gentlemen. You may have a seat. So just to let you all know, you will be allowed 2 minutes to introduce yourselves and provide opening statements. When we get to questions, you have 1 minute to respond to questions. I will let Coach Ernest Radcliffe begin. You have 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Good morning. My name is Ernest Coach Radcliffe. I'm a resident of the 20th Ward. I've been in the 20th Ward for over 25 years. I've dedicated my entire life to the betterment of the 20th Ward. I graduated from Harlan High School. I attended Central State University, played 4.5 years of professional baseball. I've came back to the community to give hope and vision to many of the youth. I've cared for, loved, and trained over 25,000. I've sent over 300 kids to college for free, and that's not enough. Giving hope and vision to thousands is not enough. The deeply rooted issues need to be addressed. I've been called on to do more. Through my massive experiences with dealing with real families, I have a real play for change. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Kevin Bailey. I'm a candidate for alderman in the 20th Ward. I'm a Sun Times endorsed candidate as well as of a couple days ago, as well as other groups that have endorsed my candidacy. I'm a civil engineer by profession. I went to the University of Illinois, where I did 2 Division I sports. I ran track and played football for the university, while also graduating from the #1 civil engineering program in the country, #2 in the world. I studied abroad in Spain, and I came back from Spain as the spokesman for the international engineering programs of the civil engineering department at the University of Illinois. I graduated from there to be over the emergency management for Union Pacific Railroad. That was all over the country. I was promoted to the Metro system, where I ran the Metro system starting in 2012. Then promoted to Amtrak Freight for CSX and Union Pacific Railroad to become promoted from there to be the lead civil engineer over President Obama's high-speed rail processes between St. Louis to Chicago. I'm the first person of color to be in that position and the youngest in history. My campaign focuses on issues that strike the community and areas of opportunity we can improve: public safety, education, health and human services, and of course community development, which includes economic development, jobs, sustainable economic engines. And today you will see the difference between the candidates as we pull out our plans and for your assessment. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Andre Smith, candidate alderman for the 20th Ward. First, I would like to say thank you for inviting us, and shot goes out to R.A.G.E and Englewood, Team Englewood, and the coalition, Englewood Coalition. Thank you so much. You have been on the front line for many, many years. I'm Andre Smith, CEO of Chicago Against Violence. This is political season, so you will hear a lot of things. People want your vote, so they have to come up with the best concept and the best script to move you emotionally, to get your vote, to get your support. But you go back and you look at your day-to-day. Who have you seen out there? Who can you trust? Who cares about you? Who fights for you? I'm Andre Smith, CEO of Chicago Against Violence. Most of the murderers out there, the people that got gunned down, I've been there, counseling the mothers, working with the mothers, working with R.A.G.E, other people. I've been out there. I've been on the front line. I am the only candidate that has been out there on the front line. Thank you so much. Once again, my name is Andre Smith.
And we would like to welcome Alderman Willie B. Cochran. You have 2 minutes for your opening statements.
Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great day in Chicago, and I'm glad to be here. As you know, this is the second term for me as Alderman of the 20th Ward, and we've been getting things done consistently. We have a good track record of achievement. We have a good track record of community engagement, implementing plans, organizing community, and following those plans. Those plans have focused on education, business, economic development, and our children, safety, senior citizens, and housing. When we start talking about housing, we talk about $200 million in housing. When we start talking about safety, we've brought more than 300 police officers in place. When we start talking about all of those things that I've spoken about, they represent a holistic approach to changing communities. And as you look around in our communities, you see the changes that have, great changes that have taken place in Englewood, correct? We are achieving things in Englewood that have never been done before, with the collaboration of the 6th Ward Alderman, with the collaboration of the 16th Ward Alderman, and the other aldermen that are in Englewood. We are working to make the changes. We are making the changes in Woodlawn. We have implemented early childhood education, restored mental health clinics that were once closed, and brought in high schools that are now graduating 100% of their children, qualifying them for college in the 20th Ward. That has not been done before, and I am glad to be driving that and driving it and continuing to drive it. Thank you very much.
This is the Aldermanic Forum for the 20th Ward. The 20th Ward is comprised of Back of the Yards, New City, Englewood, Greater Grand Crossing, Washington Park, and Woodlawn. During the recent remap, the 20th Ward voter precincts decreased to 7 out of 39. 17% of the registered voters of the 20th Ward live in the Englewood community. There are 3,537 registered voters in this ward. The average voter turnout for the 20th Ward in Englewood is 45%. Just wanted to give you some Englewood voter history statistics specifically for the 20th Ward. So we're gonna get underway into the questions. And the first question I will pose to Ernest RADCLIFFE. How will you bring businesses into the community? And then it goes on to say, if you grant companies TIF funds, how will you hold them accountable in terms of hiring people from the community?
The first thing that must happen for businesses to come into the community is safety. Safety is the number one responsibility of the alderman. If we do not have safety, then the businesses would not come. Once the community is safe and the businesses will come, we must have the proper training for our people to be able to land the jobs. If we don't have the training, then the people cannot be able to hold those jobs at that particular time. So safety is the number one criteria along with job training. Job training will land jobs, and that's what I want to say about that.
The next question is for Andre Smith. What do you envision in the closed schools? As you know, we have many closed schools in Englewood. What would be your vision for one of those?
Thank you for asking the question. We know that we have just went through what no other city has went through. The North Side hasn't went through. It happened in our community, on our watch, or under the leadership of our failed aldermen. Our schools being closed, our children being displaced, have to cross through gun violence and gang territory. Under my watch, as alderman, I would not allow that to happen. My plan within the first 90 days is to visit every school in the 20th Ward to see where they can improve and how can I help as the next alderman of the 20th Ward. Thank you so much.
The next question is for Kevin Bailey. And it reads, will you support dog parks? But moreover, it asks about the creative, productive uses of vacant land and buildings.
What was that again?
So the question was, will you support dog parks? Or will you support the creative, productive use of vacant land and buildings?
I think it's important to utilize all that we have. We have some wonderful resources in the community, historic parks, excellent transportation hubs, and some of the residents might be interested in dog parks. I'm interested in exploring all of these options because as a community, we all have different interests, and I think we all need to have that voice and input to have our interests displayed in the community. So I would support any initiative that enhances the communication between residents, enhances our input and inclusion, and that includes those parks. Thank you very much.
And the next question I will pose to Alderman Cochran. How do you feel about the railroad in Englewood? And it specifically asks about the Englewood flyover and Norfolk Southern Rail Yard and its economic impact.
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. I've been deeply involved in that process from the very beginning. It has been a challenge for our community, but the community have had the community in meetings, and we have stood on behalf of the community members. We've had to move people out of their homes for the expansion of the Norfolk and Southern Railroad. And as a result of that moving out of the park, those homeowners have been compensated. We've been at the table with them, Pat Dow and myself, and throughout that whole move, not one person came in to complain with me about the prices that they've received. Other people who are sitting in this room right now have received resources from Norfolk and Southern on that move as renters that were not even entitled to those things. And we have advocated for those people in the community who has been addressing that. On the other front, economic development. You talked about economic development earlier. We are working with Norfolk and Southern right now, and I have a plan in my hand, a large-scale, business-led proposal to create industry and jobs on the Chicago South Side. Okay.
Thank you. So the next question comes from the Englewood Votes Coalition. And I'm going to let everyone have a minute to respond to this question. Many constituents in our community complain that they don't believe their voices are heard by political leadership, or even worse, ignored. Issues such as recent school closings and traffic cameras have highlighted those feelings of powerlessness. The community overwhelmingly objected to them, yet witnessed leadership proceed in spite of those objections. The question is, what plans have you made to ensure that your constituents feel heard and needed? And please be as specific as possible. Again, I would like every candidate to answer the question, and you have 1 minute.
As alderman of the 20th Ward, the most important thing is the residents. And as I become the alderman, community forums, surveys will be issued out to each resident so we can come into a facility of this magnitude and sit down and be able to talk. Your voice is the most important thing. Without your voice, I can't do my job. I'm only as good as you. I am the coach. I'm the alderman. The alderman is only as good as his team. So I need to listen to what the concerns are of our residents. Thank you.
Kevin Bailey. I absolutely agree with that question. It feels like a lot of our voices are going unheard. That's why we have so much displacement in Englewood. These people were not very much compensated at all. As a railroad insider, I understand the dealings of that deal and how it could have been much improved to bring much more opportunity to this community, and that did not happen. Not at all. And it's happening again in Washington Park as we are being tipped when the residents went down to downtown to protest against the implementation of TIP. It's happening all over again. So what we need to do, what we need to do as a community is establish an organization throughout the community, reestablish precinct captains, reestablish block clubs so everyone has a voice, everyone has inclusion. This is how we have accountability for the alderman. The alderman's office is not very good without an organization and getting the issues from the people. This is what we need to do so our voices can be heard, and displacement like what happened in Englewood under the watch of our current administration doesn't happen again. And the TIF that's happening in Washington Park doesn't happen again. That is implemented with the people, for the people, by the people, and we have access and inclusion and opportunity in that development. Thank you.
The alderman just said that he is proud of his accomplishments. The alderman just said in front of you that we, who is the we? Because we were not included in that decision. When those people from 55th Street to 59th Street, west side of the Dan Rand, was displaced and their houses was taken by eminent domain. He's proud of that. That is not what you need representing you. One thing that we have forgot as leaders and city officials, we work for you. We work for you. When you cast your vote, you hire us to represent you. And by Andre Smith being the next alderman of the 20th Ward, I will have an advisory council made up from Englewood and back of the yards, New City, Washington Park, Woodlawn. You will be a part of my everyday discussion. You will sit down with me and talk about the issues in the ward.
Voice of the people. The voice of the people in Englewood consists of Englewood Community Development. The voice of the people in Englewood consists of Teamwork Englewood. The voice of the people of the community are being heard. through Englewood. In Woodlawn, the network of Woodlawn is another organization. Woodlawn Neighbors Association is another organization that I get counsel from. Washington Park Consortium is another organization that I get counsel for. Clio organization is another organization in these communities that I get counsel from. And when we talk about TIFs are intended for struggling communities that are put in place. And they have been affected in Englewood, and we've been able to return $5.5 million to homeowners in Englewood through a TIF. We have done the same thing in Woodlawn. We have made SPIFs available to businesses so that those businesses can expand and create and build new businesses. And so we are doing great things with TIFs. We have a way of hearing the voice, and we've seen over 5,000 people who have walked through my office to tell me what they're concerned.
He was basically asking, what were you going to do about the violence in the 20th Ward community? What would be your solutions to some of it?
Gang violence in the neighborhood is what I heard him state. Gang violence in the neighborhood is perpetrated as a result of a number of different issues that are affecting people's lives. Those lives mean education. Those things that bring a focus on violence are family values, job opportunities, training, social and emotional matters. And so we have to address this in a holistic approach, as I've stated before. We have to introduce and bring our children up, which we've done in the back of the yards community. That question came from the back of the yards community. And to address that, we've introduced, from the long-term perspective, an early childhood development center that focuses on children getting care from 6 months old all the way through high school. Cradle to college is one effort that we will do. We've implemented a pediatric mental health facility in the Englewood community. Hasn't been done before, so that our children can be relieved of the stresses that they have had from trauma. Removing that trauma and the experience of trauma from children is a way in which we will be able to reduce the crime and the violence. We will continue to do the job training. We've introduced the Center for Working Families at the Kennedy King College.
Would any other candidate like to respond to that question?
My name is Ernest Radcliffe. The one thing that I do know, we just asked a question about the violence. Going into the communities directly, being a coach, and talking to and coaching the youth. The youth is the most important thing, and the 18 to 25-year-olds. Extracurricular activities need to be addressed. Extracurricular activities. If I could do that with the lack of resources that I've had to make sure that all the kids that I've touched already have moved on for the betterment and have gotten their college degrees, what do you think I would do with the resources that our current aldermen have? Now, on 63rd and Cottage Grove, it's a lot of activity over there. It shouldn't be there. I worked in the Englewood area for 4 years.
Okay. Mr. Radcliffe, please have a seat. Thank you. Mr. Bailey, you may proceed on answering the question.
Is this a wireless mic? Okay.
It's on.
All right,
It's on.
all right. Can everyone hear me? Okay, fantastic. Well, the gang violence is an issue. The demographic between 14 to 24 is one of the most forgotten and discounted populations across the country, and especially in this area. We need to engage the youth and let them know that they are relevant. They're frustrated. They're going to school to come out to no jobs. They're going to school and they come out, they're scared to walk the streets because of other gang violence and police brutality. They don't know who to turn to for help or safety. So we need to address all that. We need to present opportunity to the area, bring that development, have a surge of safety officers and such that are hired to come in the area. That is unsustainable budgetarily, but at the same time, we need to bring in development so when these children are turned into adults coming out of high school, they're no longer frustrated. They see a future for themselves. They see themselves turn into young men and women. That's how we solve that crime. That's how we change the mentality of our youth. Thank you very much.
Excuse me. There will be no outbursts in this forum. Thank you. Thank you, Demond.
Thank you so much. I would fight for restoring justice program, ex-offender program, mentoring program, and bringing in alternative schools. I also would not allow any development going on in the 20th Ward that would deal with zoning under my watch, that do not hire anyone from the community that would stop as I am the alderman. We must not forget that our current alderman is the chair for the safety committee, but we're living in the worst community as far as crime. Something's wrong.
Repeat the question. Okay, I got thrown off a bit here by Mr. Smith here.
You answered that question already, Alderman Cochran.
Oh, did I? Okay. I was just.
But I'll give you another one. How will you support organizations and programs that help young people be productive? Or how will you connect youth to jobs? I'm going to pose that question to Mr. Bailey.
I love this topic. I was just down with Father Flager this past Tuesday or Wednesday protesting the cuts that Governor Rauner put in place to cut the funding for youth programs. I was down there protesting. How do we do that? We ensure that legislation passes to where we can include the youth in our developments, that they can understand that they are relevant from the time that they're walking and talking and playing basketball to the time they become adults, that their voice needs to count. So when they become 18, they expect to vote and their voice be heard. Some of the programs include some of the participatory budgeting initiatives targeted towards the youth to see what they want, to see what they would like to do and contribute to this community, because they have ideas too. And if we smother them while they're young, they will try to, that will force their creativity and imagination to go away. So I think including them in our budgets, including them in our processes as a community, as far as developments, maybe they want to be young entrepreneurs, that's a great way to go.
Thank you. And I just want to let everyone know that our questions are not cherry-picked. We are getting our questions from an array of sources. We've had folks submit questions online over the past couple of weeks, and we've also been taking them from the audience as well as videotaping people. You will see their questions later. So we did want to just address that one concern. We are taking all forms of questions from different places, and we are categorizing them as we see fit. The next question is posed to Mr. Andre Smith. And that question is, do you support charter schools? This comes from the online portal. Do you support charter schools?
I support our children being educated, and I support fully funded schools. I support CPS. I have marched with them. I have walked with them, Karen Lewis and other people. So, no.
This question is for Alderman Cochran. Alderman Cochran, what do you envision in the closed schools? As you know, Englewood has a couple of schools that have been closed. What would you envision in those closed school buildings?
Well, we've been researching those closed school buildings and trying to convene the best thoughts. And what we've been hearing about closed schools is the possibility of senior centers, the possibility of mixed use centers where we bring technology training, where we bring college education satellite offices into those schools, where we bring robotics training into those schools, where we have early childhood education in those schools. A host of different opportunities can be put into those buildings that address the number of issues in our neighborhoods that will make people better off, that can focus on the jobs, and that are available for us, the education that is necessary for us, the social services that are necessary for us. And so each school will present various challenges, and who bids on those schools in the request for proposal will be driven by the community. And so my vision for the schools is based on the community.
The next question is from the audience, and it's for Mr. Radcliffe. How would loitering in Englewood be taken care of? This prevents new businesses from coming in the community.
Again, I think the number one thing is safety. We must address that issue immediately. We must have more B cops on the forefront. As the alderman must also be in the community and must be seen. He must go out there and ask people, could you please remove yourself from these different areas? In order for our community to become better, we must address those issues. Once those issues are addressed, then more companies will come into the Englewood community, the back of the yards, and into the Woodline and Washington Park areas. So safety, more B cops on the forefront, and also the alderman being seen on a consistent basis. Thank you.
The next question is for anyone who wants to answer it. Englewood has the highest concentration of police officers, but there is still high violence. What is your opinion on this reality? You have 1 minute to respond. Who would like to respond to that?
Well, Englewood has the highest number of police officers because we've put a focus on the people in Englewood and the safety matters. In order to address safety in the community, you have to have three approaches: short-term, mid-range, and long-term. The short-term solution is to get the bad guy off the street, to get the guns off the street and put them away where they should be so that communities feel safer. The mid-range plan is to put training programs in place and make jobs available for those people who want to climb the ladder of success. If they don't want to climb the ladder, then there's nothing you could do about that. The long-term plan I've mentioned earlier about early childhood development, giving good grade schools on education so that people can go to high school and college or technical services that are necessary. That is what we need to do in terms of addressing and reducing the number of police officers in the community. The community called for that. They wanted protection, and we got it for them.
Next question comes from the audience. Over the past several years, the 20th Ward has had some of the highest dropout rates in the city. How do you plan to address this? That's for any candidate who would like to respond.
I believe we need to address it holistically. I think we need to invest in our teachers and in our students, fully fund the school budget to make sure that we're getting the resources necessary. But from the platform of the Aldermanic office, I would like to engage those schools personally and give incentivized rewards as a way to let the students know that I'm paying attention. It's not only your mother and your grandmother and your mother and father that are paying attention to your grades. Your civil leader is paying attention as well. That may be something as simple as taking them or their family out to dinner every quarter or something like that. But I think that will let them know that what they're doing is important, and it would be a new idea introduced that hasn't been done before.
Mr. Radcliffe?
As alderman, the first thing that needs to be done is the alderman needs to go into the schools and talk to the principals, from the elementary to the high schools, and find out what the concerns are. Make sure that they have the proper resources so that teachers can be able to teach. Also, extracurricular activities is a vehicle for that. Kids always want outlets, and that is a carrot that you provide them for something else to do to harness their energies as well as teaching. We must hold our teachers accountable. We must also hold our principals accountable to make sure that they are being taught the right way. Thank you.
As Alderman, I would provide grants, funding, and making it safe. Because what happened is that with our children living in our community, most of our children are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. That means that you have been impacted with something and you wasn't expecting it. Seeing that our Alderman is very proud that he hired more police, because that's what's on his card. I hired more police. But the more police are coming in our community but not solving crimes. They're coming in our community bullying us. When he says, get the people off the street, that's why we can't go on the street. Because the police is getting us off the street. And the Alderman is happy about it.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, Education Task Force is what I put in place as far as the school is concerned. We meet and convene with principals throughout our ward once every 2 months, and teachers to talk about the matters that are going on in their schools and how we can support that. As you know, aldermen don't have a vote on the Board of Education. Aldermen don't have a vote on the closure of schools. Aldermen have a limited amount of influence as to what the outcomes and spending in schools are. And so we have to work on two sides, one from within, one from without, from the legislative position. And that is why I introduced the Legislative Educational Task Force. I don't think it is. What we also have done to deal with the traumatic incidents that we have in our community, again, pediatric behavioral health, never done before. We want to make sure that we relieve our children of those stresses that they have had. And that is in the Englewood Healthcare Center. First time ever that that has been done. And reopened mental health facilities. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, at this time, each candidate will have approximately 2 minutes to make your closing statements. We will start with Mr. Smith.
Once again, my name is Andre Smith. The choice is clear. When you're looking for an alderman, you want to make sure that that person can stand the test against Ron Emanuel. And you want to make sure that they can bring people together, negotiation, marriages. That's the only way you're going to talk to the other 49 aldermen to bring resources back into your community. Andre Smith has that track record. None of these candidates have it. And we have a failed alderman that does not listen. He does not hear the community cry. He drives by, walks by, but he do not take a stand on us and our issues. So I say to you today, when you decide to go vote, really take a look at who you have in front of you. See who's been there, not who think they're going to be there. Because when children get shot and they're crying, none of these guys are there. When the school was closing, none of these guys was there. When Quinn was finna take the funding from child care, none of these guys was there. So give it up to Kevin Bailey, because he was at his first rally with Father Flagler the other day. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that shout out. I did rally with Father Flagler. I appreciate it. We were down there for a good cause. The youth needed somebody to speak up for them. I didn't see any of y'all down there. Thank you. And speaking of picketing and rallying, when we did have our governors running, I was not backing the current governor, nor did I ask to picket Miss Michelle Obama. Why are you throwing stones? So back to the program. I have run operations across the country from Chicago to LA. Operational, I can run services as easy as you and I are breathing. And that's what this ward is needing. So our alderman can focus on things that focuses on our culture of our community. Education, public safety, health and human services, economic development. I've worked with contracts across the country. I've worked with different administrations, aldermen in other states as well, and they handle eminent domain much differently. If you want somebody that knows how to handle this development and speak up for the people, understand parity legislation to represent the development that's here, to come back to the people that's here, understanding CPAC and also to hold the police accountable, but at the same time offering the training to come into our community, understand how we do by imposing cultural awareness training, as well as non-violent conflict resolution. We need that. We don't have people speaking up on these positive, innovative ideas. We're stuck with the exact same circle of cycle garbage. It's time to do something new downtown. Punch 55 if you want to see your community revive. Kevin Bailey.
My name is Ernest Radcliffe. Thanks for that comment, Mr. Smith. I really appreciate that. But nobody up here has my platform. Now, instead of us up here bashing each other, we should be concerned about the community. That's why I'm different, because I'm running as a concerned citizen, not a politician. I can go on and on about Mr. Smith being in the race last year, but I don't want to talk about that. We know what happened. I'm the only one who cares about the youth. I have the biggest heart up here, not afraid to stand in front of the mayor and say no. Not going to be a rubber stamp. I've done that. I've trained kids. I've sent them to college. I've been in the neighborhoods. I was there right there when that young man got killed. We need a trauma center. We need to stop talking about all this and let's get to doing what we need to do. Get on my back, because I'm the 20th Ward. I'm Coach Radcliffe, Punch 57. Nobody is going to beat me. I am a champion, and I will stay a champion, and I'm going to make my ward a champion. I will coach you and lead you to prominence, because I am great. And it's not about me, it's about you. So thank you, Mr. Smith, Mr. Bailey, Mr. Alderman Cochran. I want to thank you. You had your time, and now it's my time.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. All right, ladies and gentlemen. We have some nice guys up here. We have some nice guys up here. They throwing daggers at each other, but we're going to go on and we're going to move past that. Each one of them has demonstrated their lack of understanding and their lack of experience on what it takes to do this. When we start talking about sensitivity training for police officers, it's already in the academy. Okay? When we start talking about someone who says eminent domain for taking over homes, no eminent domain has ever been in place over there. Another demonstration of a lack of understanding. When we start talking about mentoring children, I cannot let this go since you started it. Let's talk about you paying your child support and lack of child support. You can't take care of your own and you talking about mentoring somebody else's. Okay? And so, I'm directing
can we
that to
please
one
stop
person.
those types of conversations?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen.
Alderman Cochran, you have about 10 seconds left to wrap up your closing
I got 1 minute to
statement.
go. So let's get back to it. I am the best person for this job because I have the experience in doing it. I am the best person for this job because I've shown a commitment to doing it and getting good results. I am the best person for this job because of the demonstrated outcomes that I have. Each community is doing better. We have over 500 new homes. We have a mental health services. We have money going back to homeowners. Our schools are getting better, and our children are going to college and training. Thank you.
I would like to thank all of the candidates for joining us for the forum today.